problems that we have seen arise, but we're going to continue to be diligent, and where people don't get the message, as Superintendent Beck said last week, we were in the education phase, now we're in the compliance phase. And it's my expectation that people must comply. This isn't a pretty please, will you? This is a must.
Do you have any advice for people who are desperate to get outside and exercise? Cabin fever hitting home, and yet you want compliance and people are trying to comply.
Look, we've always said that people can go outside and people need to get fresh air. They can walk down the block, or they're going to walk their dog. The issue isn't the exercise. The issue isn't necessarily being outside. It's congregating and being in places where the risk of exposure is heightened because of being in close proximity to somebody who really isn't in your household. That's the issue. Why we shut down the lakefront, the Riverwalk, the 606, and why we're going to continue to be aggressive about gatherings outside or parties inside is because it's the congregating that spreads the virus. And that's where we have to clamp down on, and we will continue to do that.
You were given the names of 3 finalists yesterday. Mm-hmm. Are you prepared to announce your choice? There's a name floating around of a front runner.
There's been, if you follow the media on this, there's been about 15 front runners. So when there's a time for that announcement, we will make it.
But you have not chosen one yet?
As I said, when there's a time for the announcement, we will make it.
Other questions that have come into me as well. AbbVie says it's going to be giving mobile field hospitals to 8 cities to help busy hospitals. Can you talk about that? Is Chicago one of them?
I don't have specific information about AbbVie. As you know, we've been very, very focused on making sure that we've set up what will probably be the largest alternative facility in the country at McCormick Place. So that's really where we're focused. We know that based on our conversations with the state, that they're looking also at 2 recently closed hospitals, Sherman Hospital in Elgin and the Metro South in the Southland. So those are really kind of the things that we are focused on, but we need as many additional beds to come online as possible. So if there are other opportunities out there, we'll actively pursue them.
What other measures might you be taking to protect renters? Other cities are implementing rent caps, prohibiting late fees. Will Chicago take these steps?
Well, look, that has to come from the state legislature, given the way that our laws are structured. We have stood up the $2 million fund to provide rental and mortgage assistance. I've been very much an advocate and using the bully pulpit to talk to banks and landlords that in this time they need to grant renters and people who hold mortgages some grace. And we continue to have those discussions at the state level as well.
Today is the 1-year anniversary of your election victory. You've been through a lot this year. Can you put into words what this year has been like for you?
Well, first and foremost, it's been the honor of my lifetime. When the voters of this city gave me such a resounding victory, winning all 50 wards by such a large margin, I was incredibly humbled, and I remain so. We've been through a lot in this last year, more than I think anyone would have expected or anticipated, but I'm grateful to the support that I continue to receive from total strangers who give me the thumbs up. And what I really want to say is that in this really unprecedented time, I'm reminded every day of how amazing the people in this city are. People are stepping up and really pushing past their comfort levels to be of service to total strangers in this time of need. I'm following their example and encouraging myself, encouraging my team, and encouraging the entire city to really embrace this moment, as horrific at times as it feels, because the only way we get to the other side of this is by being lockstep together in knowing that our fate is wrapped up in each other, and when the light at the end of the tunnel comes, it's going to be because of the sacrifices that each of us have made in service of the larger good. So this isn't the day that I thought it was going to be, and thinking about April 2nd, but I'm grateful every day that the good Lord wakes me up and gives me the opportunity to serve the city.
Obviously, this job is demanding in and of itself. But under the crisis and the demands and the pressure on you, how are you holding up just as a person?
Well, look, in this moment, I'm very sad. I spoke to Officer DeFranco's wife right before I came on here. Those are very hard conversations to have when a wife and a family is sitting in that moment with their grief. And I always offer my sincere condolences and sincerely offer to support the family in any way I can. But having been through death and grief myself, these moments are so surreal and they're so hard. So I'm feeling that for that family. I'm lucky because I still have my mother, I still have my siblings, and I have an incredible wife and daughter who sustain me every single day. And the love of a great network of friends who keep sending me memes. So personally, I'm doing fine.
One final question just comes to mind. Will this be classified as a line of duty death?
I don't know the answer to that question. The superintendent does.
So we will look at all circumstances. It's way too early to do that at this point. Obviously, we will look and see if that is warranted. And this is something that the president of the FOP and I have talked about and will continue to talk about. I mean, I think this is something that we, first responders all across the nation are struggling with. You know, certainly we are not unique. Obviously, this tragedy is very, very personal to this city and this department, but the entire nation struggles with this. I'm on a conference call later today with my counterparts in New York and Los Angeles, and New York obviously has suffered through this already.
Now, do you happen to know, just across Illinois, is this the first responder who has died from COVID-19 in Illinois?
You know, I do not know in Illinois. I think that it may be, but it is certainly not the first in the nation. And, you know, I think that sometimes we make a mistake by not thinking of this as a national crisis and looking at it too locally.
The answer to that question?
I do not know. I'm looking at Dr. Irwin. Yeah, not the ruler.
It's not the first, or there has not been another first responder COVID-19
I'll ask her.
death.
So obviously here in Chicago, we have visibility into Chicago residents. I am not aware of a first responder in another community in Illinois, but I can't with certainty say that has not occurred.
That's all the questions that come into me, although I haven't checked email for the next line of them, but I'll
Okay.
turn it over to my colleague.
Thank you, Co-Anchor. The first question is from Omar Jimenez, and it's for Interim Superintendent Beck. Have you had officers express worry or concern to you or other leadership about this added risk to an already risky job? If so, what's been the nature of those conversations?
Well, I think certainly they have. You know, all of us are concerned. You know, there's not a person in this city that isn't worried about contact with COVID-19 and getting ill. So first responders definitely are, and Chicago police officers definitely are. But I will say this, that they show up for work, they work hard, they believe in their profession, they believe in this city, and I have seen no unwillingness to push forward and keep this city safe during this crisis. You know, we obviously suffer through illness, just like everybody else does. But these are an incredibly motivated, strong workforce that recognizes that theirs is a higher calling, and that without them, you know, this city cannot succeed.
Follow-up question from Omar for both Mayor Lightfoot and Interim Superintendent Beck. Are there plans in place for potentially needing volunteer first responders or help from the outside of some sort if the number of infections grows?
Well, we have a very strong continuity of operations plan that delineates at which points in our workforce crisis or workforce diminishment we will take which steps. You know, there probably volunteers are not high on that list, but I think that there is a tremendous opportunity for volunteers in other parts of this crisis, and I'll let the mayor speak to that.
No, that's right. Look, we invest a tremendous amount in our police officers, our firefighters, and other first responders. Their training matters, and they're leaning into that training now. So the notion that we would enlist volunteers is really not something that's part of the plan. We do have contingency plans, but that's not part of it. But as Superintendent Beck said, we've been doing an all-call for volunteers every single day. We still need people to join the medical corps, doctors, nurses, phlebotomists, pharmacists. Everybody who's part of the healthcare ecosystem is needed now more than ever. You can go to the city's website, chicago.gov/coronavirus, and there's lots of opportunities for medical personnel to step up who want to volunteer in this time of need. And if you're not somebody from the medical professional, there's plenty of opportunities to volunteer there as well. We have a network of not-for-profits across the city who are doing the Lord's work every day. They're feeding people. They're taking care of the sick. They're taking care of the hungry, the homeless, people who are really challenged with mental health issues. There is a role for you if you want to volunteer your time, and those volunteer activities are on the same website, chicago.gov/coronavirus. Step up in this time.
Question from Bill Cameron. How will the City Council meeting comply with Governor Pritzker's stay-at-home order?
We are looking at having our City Council meeting be virtual.
Question from Fran Spielman. She's asking for a reaction to the following.
I'm sorry?
She's asking for a reaction to the following.
Okay.
John Catanzaro, thank you, who finished first in round one of the election for president of the FOP, said he fears the first death in the ranks of the police department will be the first of many. He said the fact that we were not prepared in any way or form for this is kind of ridiculous, even if the officer did have pre-existing conditions. If we had proper sanitizers or masks, there could have been precautions taken much sooner for people with these conditions, so they weren't so directly exposed to the stuff.
Well, thanks, Fran, for once again highlighting the voice of somebody who is uninformed and unconnected to the realities of what's happening on the ground in the Chicago Police Department. Look, I know he's running for election, but in this time of crisis, we need leaders who are reasonable and responsible and are leading on the basis of science and data. The truth is that the Chicago Police Department, from the very beginning of this crisis, was one of the first to receive thousands of pieces of equipment, thousands, and continues to, and training, and local training, and in partnership with not only the FOP but all the unions, we have been responsive to the concerns that members have expressed during this time of crisis. And I can bring Dr. Artie to the stand and give a little more finer point on the resources that we have supplied, But the notion, A, that we were not prepared, which is wrong, and B, that somehow we have shifted our police officers, our firefighters, our other first responders, flies in the face of the reality. I've said this many times over the last few weeks. We have three primary priorities. Making sure that our healthcare system remains strong and vibrant. That includes our healthcare workers. Making sure that our first responders have all the tools that they need to render the service that they have been called to do. They are running towards danger. We know that every day, and the danger is no more real than it is now. And so we've made sure that we have done everything we can to help them be safe and keep others safe, and continue to do that. And then, of course, the other priority is making sure that we are taking care of people in our community that are vulnerable, whether it's our seniors, it's homeless, people who are worried about being able to be fed every day. Every single day, we are calibrating and calculating what more we can make sure that those three remains front and center in our response to COVID. So, unfortunately, the comments that were reported, like chum being put out on the water, are just fundamentally wrong. Dr. Larley, you want to?
So I'll just add some details on the PPE piece. So every day we are looking at our reports, both of what PPE we have in place, where it's going out, making sure it's going to the places where it is most needed. And you've heard me say from the beginning that here in the city of Chicago, we have a stockpile of very high quality personal protective equipment that we bought over the years to make sure we would be ready if a pandemic did come. I know a lot of other cities, I know states, I know the federal government may not have fully had that in place, but here in Chicago, we have. And the priorities for that stockpile are our healthcare workers, specifically our hospitals and long-term care facilities, and our first responders. So we have lines that are not just about healthcare, but are about CFD and CPD. And so I pulled the numbers this morning, just to the Chicago Police Department. We put out more than 100,000 masks, more than 100,000 gloves, more than 50,000 hand sanitizers, and then where needed, gowns or other protective equipment. There's been even other equipment that's gone to CFD. But I really appreciate everybody who has been contributing PE. We have on the website, chicago.gov/coronavirus, about have personal protective equipment, taking that out to shelters, to other places where it's needed. But our most valuable protective equipment to the first responders here in Chicago and to our healthcare partners. That's been true from the beginning. It will not change, and it's at the forefront.
Last question from me. This comes from AD Berg at Cranes, and it's for President Graham. Do you think CDPH should share addresses of COVID